This is Max Fosh. He is not a prankster, not really a comedian either, and definitely not what you'd call a traditional entrepreneur. But somehow, he has built a brand that millions recognize. A one-man media company built on chaos. These stunts might seem ridiculous, but what if I told you they are not just jokes, they are strategy? Because behind every fake company, every absurd challenge, and every public stunt is a blueprint for attention, for influence, for visibility. And once you understand it, you will start to see the internet very, very differently. Max Fosh didn't start on YouTube. He started on the street, handing strangers a microphone, filming awkward conversations. Just a university student making street-smart videos for campus Facebook groups. And it works because Max Fosh figured out something most creators never do. It's not about going viral. It's about being unignorable. He didn't just chase views. He reverse engineered visibility. He studied what gets attention and why. Then he built a business on top of it. While most creators are stuck trying to niche down or optimize for the algorithm, Max broke the rules entirely, and somehow he won. This is the story of how Max Fosh went from interviewing drunk students outside nightclubs to becoming one of the most quietly disruptive creators on the internet, and what every entrepreneur, every creator can learn from the way he thinks. Before the mayorships, before the fake companies, before the headlines that read, "Man becomes world's richest person for 7 minutes." Max Fosh was just a student with a camera and a deadline. It was 2016. He was studying at Newcastle University, and like many students, he needed a side hustle. Some people bartend, some people tutor. Max went out into the street. Armed with a mic and a bit of borrowed confidence, he started asking people ridiculous questions. What's the most embarrassing thing on your phone? Who's more likely to ghost someone, a medic or a law student?
First year? Yeah.
Yes.
Studying?
Law.
Law?
Yeah.
Wow.
Baby. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to it?
No.
It was crude, it was awkward, but it worked. He called it street smart.
Another year and a whole new bunch of students have descended into Newcastle for 3 years of highs, lows and cheap alcohol. Welcome to Street Smart. Why have you come to university?
It wasn't polished, but it had something the rest didn't: authenticity. And Max had a knack for getting people to let their guard down fast. But here is the thing: this wasn't supposed to be a career. He studied politics. He thought he'd go into broadcasting, maybe radio. In fact, after uni, he actually got a job offer in traditional media. And then he turned it down. That moment matters because it's the first big choice Max made that reveals what he really is. Not a YouTuber, not a prankster, a disruptor. He looked at the traditional path: work your way up, wait your turn, follow the rules, and said, no thanks. Instead, he took street smart to YouTube. And what started as student night banter quickly evolved into something else entirely. A new kind of performance, a new kind of creator.
If a pregnant woman goes swimming, does that make her a human submarine?
Max Fosh didn't blow up overnight. He wasn't doing YouTube to get rich. He was trying to go viral. He was just uploading consistently with a very particular kind of curiosity. What would happen if I pretended to be a DJ and got booked to headline a music festival? What if I ran a completely fake ad campaign for a product that doesn't exist? What if I tried to convince a stranger to buy a painting I didn't paint? It was ridiculous, it was funny, but it wasn't random. Max wasn't just filming pranks, he was testing ideas. And this is where you start to see the shift. He wasn't interested in just views, he was interested in how attention works. He'd explain the plan before executing it, bring you into the process, walk you through the setup, the risk, the logic. This made the audience feel like co-conspirators, not just viewers. Most prank channels chase the laugh. Max was chasing the narrative. He was crafting tiny 3-act stories inside 10-minute videos. Setup, execution, fallout. And the more ridiculous the idea, the more plausibly executed he made it. I became a fake model to walk in Paris Fashion Week. And it worked. Millions of views, not because of SEO, not because of thumbnails, because people wanted to know what happened next. What Max had stumbled into, intentionally or not, was one of the most powerful levers on the internet. Narrative tension. Keep the stakes low, but the curiosity high. Use absurdity as a delivery system for story. And if you're willing to be the punchline, even better. By 2020, Max's channel was no longer about interviews. It was about experiments, in visibility, in human behavior, in how far you can stretch reality before people realize they are in on the joke. He wasn't just rising through YouTube. He was building his own genre inside it. At some point, Max Fosh stopped just asking, "What if?" and started asking something more dangerous. How far can I take this before someone stops me? And that's when everything changed. This wasn't just YouTube anymore. It was performance art in public, targeting institutions, calling out power, and doing it all with a smirk.
I'm here at the US Security Expo, where the greatest minds in the US come together to stop bad guys getting into places. I'm here with a pass that says Nick Everything International Baddie.
In 2022, Max filed paperwork in the UK to register a new company. No employees, no product, no office, just one thing. He valued it at £500 billion. Legally, that made him briefly richer than Elon Musk, richer than Bezos, richer than any living human being. Of course, it wasn't real, but that was the point. It was a joke, but it was also a scalpel, because buried inside the absurdity was this question. If someone can just fill out a form and become a billionaire, what does that say about how value is assigned? Another time he ran for London mayor. He didn't want to win. He just wanted to beat one guy, Lawrence Fox, a far-right political figure with a growing media presence. And he did, by just 20 votes. It wasn't just a prank, it was protest, performance with purpose. At this point, it's hard to call Max just a YouTuber. He was operating more like a guerrilla marketer, a satirist, an agent of chaos with a camera crew. His stunts weren't just for laughs, they revealed something about bureaucracy, about power, about how easy it is to exploit systems that were never designed for scrutiny. And he was doing it all from a tiny YouTube channel with no backing, no budget, just ideas, big ones. And it worked. Because Max didn't chase controversy, he engineered it with charm, with intention, and just enough plausible deniability to keep people wondering, is this guy serious? To most people, Max Fosh's content looks like chaos. Running for office, starting fake businesses. But if you zoom out and look at the pattern, it's clear. These aren't just stunts. They are strategy. Because every move Max makes serves one goal. Earn attention. The kind algorithms can't ignore. The attention equation. Here is how it works. Every Max video starts with an idea that is visually absurd, easy to summarize in a headline, just plausible enough to make you curious. Think about it. Man becomes world's richest person for 7 minutes. Max Fosh runs for London mayor, beats far-right candidate by 20 votes. These aren't just YouTube titles, they are headlines, tailor-made for press coverage, Twitter threads, and TikTok reactions. And they get picked up constantly. Why? Because Max understands what most creators miss. Visibility doesn't just come from views, it comes from talkability. Make something people have to share, and the platforms will do the rest. But it's not just the idea, it's the way he delivers it. Each video follows a format that's surprisingly consistent. The setup. Here is the crazy thing I'm going to try. The plan, a walkthrough of the logistics, gives credibility. The attempt, the actual execution, usually public, awkward, or risky. The fallout, what happened, what went wrong, what he learned. That structure turns what could be a dumb prank into a story, and stories are sticky. What makes it work is that Max is playing both sides. He is in on the joke, but he is also taking it seriously enough that it tricks the system. He'll hire lawyers, file official documents, book real venues, because the more real it looks, the harder it is to ignore, and the more effort he puts in, the more the audience roots for him. This is what I'd call high-effort absurdity. And it's the reason why so many of Max's videos succeed where traditional pranks fail. Because while other creators go for shock, Max goes for structure. He builds an idea you want to follow, then pays it off. To most people, it looks like Max is playing around, but really he's running one of the most effective brand building strategies on the internet, using stunts not for laughs but for leverage. On the surface, Max Fosh makes prank videos silly, harmless, often ridiculous. But when you zoom out, you start to see it. This isn't just entertainment, it's critique. Max is using YouTube the way some people use journalism, to expose the strange loopholes, blind spots, and absurdities of modern life. But instead of publishing articles, he leaves the experiment. Satire disguised as content. Every Max Fosh stunt is doing two things at once, making you laugh and quietly revealing something broken. Let's break it down. When he files paperwork to become the world's richest man, he is not just being funny. He is showing how arbitrary financial systems are. When he launches a fake investment company, he is not just trolling a billionaire. He is demonstrating how little scrutiny there is for firms that manage your money. When he runs for mayor just to beat a far-right figure, he is not mocking politics. He is asking, why do we give power to the loudest people in the room? This isn't chaos, it's controlled rebellion. Visibility as protest. Max is part of a new wave of creators who use visibility as a tool of protest. But where traditional protest confronts power directly, Max plays by the rules, just to show how ridiculous those rules are. It's the same spirit as the Yes Men, or Nathan Fielder, or even Sacha Baron Cohen. Except Max doesn't hide behind a character. He is the character, and that's the magic. He is self-aware. He knows how silly he looks, but he also knows the audience is smart enough to see what else is going on. The real game. Because when you look closely, Max isn't chasing fame. He is chasing freedom. The freedom to experiment, to poke the system, to make things that get talked about without needing permission. He is not trying to become a traditional media personality. He is trying to become unignorable on his own terms. And in doing so, he is quietly redefining what it means to be a creator in the algorithm age. Not just someone who understands how the game works and bends it for fun. Max Fosh might not look like an entrepreneur. No product, no sales funnel, no paid ads. But make no mistake, he is running a visibility business. And that's something every creator and entrepreneur should study. Because Max's stunts aren't just funny, they are positioning. Lesson 1. Define your playing field. Most creators try to compete in crowded spaces. Tutorials, lifestyle content, how to grow videos. Max chose a different route. Manufacture absurdity so compelling it gets coverage for free. Instead of trying to win the algorithm, he makes the algorithm come to him through news outlets, Twitter threads, Reddit, and real-world virality. He is not trying to fit into a category. He is creating a category around himself. And that's powerful, because when you don't look like anyone else, you don't have to compete with anyone else. Lesson 2. Make things that market themselves. Max doesn't promote his videos. His ideas do that for him. Every stunt is engineered to be visually interesting, emotionally engaging, inherently shareable. It's the opposite of the optimized for SEO model. It's optimized for word of mouth. Think about it. Did you see the guy who became the world's richest man for 7 minutes? That's dinner table conversation. That's Slack messages. That's attention you don't have to buy. Lesson 3. Build with story, not just value. Most entrepreneurs obsess over value. Max obsesses over story. Because people don't share value, they share stories that make them feel something. Wonder, curiosity, admiration, even confusion. And Max gives them that on repeat. It's why people binge his channel, not because they are learning, but because they are hooked. And when people are hooked, they remember you. And when they remember you, you own the category in their minds. Lesson 4. Attention is a business asset. Here is the part most creators miss. Max isn't monetizing through courses, products, or SaaS, but he could, because attention is an asset. It compounds, it opens doors, it builds the leverage for whatever he wants to do next. And Max knows that. In interviews, he's hinted at broader ambitions. Producing, writing, running something bigger than a channel. And when that moment comes, he won't have to introduce himself to anyone. They'll already know him from the time he ran for mayor or built a fake business that went viral. So, if you're a creator, entrepreneur, or just someone trying to stand out, take a page from Max's playbook. You don't need a giant budget. You don't need to be the best. You just need one thing, an idea that makes people look twice, and a story that makes them stay. Because in the age of content overload, attention isn't just a byproduct, it's the product. Max Fosh doesn't sell a course. He doesn't preach hustle. He doesn't try to be a business guru. He just asks better questions. What would happen if I did something so ridiculous no one could ignore it? Then he goes out and does it. Not for shock value, but to show us something. Something about attention. Something about power. Something about how strange the rules of the world really are. Max Fosh is a mirror, and when we watch him, we are not just laughing at the stunt, we are catching a glimpse of what we could do if we stopped asking for permission. Because here is the truth. Visibility doesn't belong to the biggest budget. Influence doesn't belong to the most qualified. And creativity doesn't belong to anyone but the people crazy enough to try something new. Max Fosh is proof that you don't need to follow the algorithm. You can confuse it. You can subvert it. You can outplay it. All you need is an idea and the nerve to press record. So the next time someone tells you that visibility is all about hacks, hashtags, or hustle, just smile and remember the guy who made himself the richest man on earth for 7 minutes.